Hello, it's Paul Clegg here from Marketing Crew Online, and today we're going to be talking about LinkedIn, not in any way that we're all experts, but inspired by Kelly Logan from SME Marketeers. She thought that it would be a good idea, rather like a book club, that if we all studied something, and in fact, in this case, it was Neil Patel's short course on YouTube on LinkedIn Unlocked, we could all dive in, do a little bit, do all of it, see what we learned, and that we could all discuss and we could get a collective effort. Now, it could be that some of us have not even gone into that, and that's okay as well. But the whole idea of this is sharing our expertise. So I'm going to hand over to Kelly to lead this session. I've got loads of notes in case anybody gets short, but over to you, Kelly.
Okay, so one of the reasons we looked at Neil Patel, so I keep up to date with lots of the SEO stuff coming through from a couple of sources. So you've got Neil Patel is very good, SEM Rush, Marie Haynes, Search Engine Land. They all kind of give you the latest on SEO. And Neil Patel, once you sign up, he'll ping you bits and pieces. And what sparked the interest for both, I think Paul saw it as well come through, is it said about advanced LinkedIn techniques. So we thought, let's have a look at that seemed to be week 6. So we thought, let's look at the course and see what we can learn. And I think sometimes you'll find, I think Neil Patel breaks it down into a sort of more basic level than the others. The others are quite advanced. But what I think he does do is give you short little sound bites that, sometimes you might look at the video and go, well, I've done all of that, that's fine. But there are also sometimes you go, oh, didn't know that, aha, that's an aha moment, I'll action that. So I'm interested to know how people found it. I mean, a lot of what he was talking about in this particular thing was about, one was events management sort of webinars, and one was about the marketing buying process, which obviously, we do, and Ewan's very kind of skilled at all of that at the moment already, so from all his work with Gartner. So, but I'd be interested to hear how people found it. Was it is it an interesting level for you? Did you find it too basic,
I thought she was a very pretty girl.
That's a different one.
That was an extra one.
That's all I can say, really.
Extra one. I thought that'd get your
watching
attention.
him.
He's been watching the wrong YouTube channel.
I might have been, Mark. Yeah, you might be right there.
Who's actually looked into it? Who's actually gone through all or part of it? Who wants to start?
I'll have a go.
Yep.
I remember when I went to his channel and looked. I didn't use Kelly's link, so you won't see whether I've looked at it or not. But I was impressed at how he breaks it down into the bits. If you said to someone, ask a question about LinkedIn, he's got I don't know, 8 or 10 minutes on it. It is really genuinely bite-sized. I mean, who hasn't got 10 minutes to sit there and drink a cup of coffee and be educated? I mean, I was impressed with the way he sort of chopped it up.
And I think that's what Neil Patel does more so than SEM Rush and everybody else. They do, as I say, they go to a higher level, but they're long courses. So they've got like you can watch a 5-hour marathon one. Obviously, it's in lots of different YouTube videos, but theirs is a much more advanced level. But as you say, Neil's very good at breaking down single like bite-sized chunks about a very specific area.
Barry, did you watch the link that Paul sent, or did you just kind of weave your way through Neil Patel's YouTube channel?
I went to direct to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, because Paul, I found the video that you shared. I thought he started off at quite a basic level, and then he went kind of very high level in terms of strategic partnerships really quickly, and then he came back down to talking to your networks. I found that course just a little bit disjointed. It seemed, I don't know what you thought.
I thought I missed one.
We obviously thought alike, because although Kelly and I directed you towards Neil Patel, I actually found Natasha far easier to follow, and I've taken a load of notes, far easier. And I think you're right. It did, I hate to say it, I tended to lose a bit of it. There wasn't so much practicality. I like somebody that teaches something and says, look, this is what it is, do this. So I like to be able to then take my LinkedIn and have a go at something,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I agree. He sort of did jump into strategic, and it made you think, have I missed something? And you checked that you were definitely on lesson 2.
Yeah, I
But
think I got to the wrong
also,
place quite quickly.
yeah, and I thought what I was disappointed was the channel, the thoughts, information I thought he was going to give you from it. He skipped over the actual hows and went, so if you're doing a sales process, these are the key things. Once you're, getting on the phone, you're like, yeah, we need that bit. I know how to do that bit. What we need, and what I thought you were going to give us some crazy insight into, is what we aren't already doing on LinkedIn. So that there were bits of it I was disappointed. I felt he skimmed over. One, he gave you the metrics. Well, he listed all of the metrics on LinkedIn. You're like, okay, so I know which ones I look at, but it would have been interesting if he'd given you perhaps his key one, but he just gave you all 15. Yeah, we know it does all 15.
But again, I think the metrics are one thing. I think for the average person on this call is probably not doing anything on LinkedIn of any, maybe share. I know Mark shares and comments and the like. I think probably Mark does more than any of us on here. Mark, how did you find it?
I mean, I did 2 or 3, I think, of the Neil Patel ones, and there was nothing on there that I don't think I'm already doing in terms of having the profile updated, and yes, some things that were suggested in 2 or 3 of in the 2 or 3 that I watched. So it's good in the way that I'm doing what he recommends as far as the ones that I did see.
Yeah, and sometimes that's good as well, isn't it? Just to know that you are doing, and
almost making sure there's no gaps in your knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, I found plenty of gaps, but not on Neil Patel's site. Anybody else got anything that they want to share from that?
Yeah, I watched all of the Neil Patel stuff. I've watched Neil's stuff over the years, sort of bits and bobs and what have you. So I watched all 6, and I found it very interesting. I think the thing that really came across to me was how underutilized it is as a platform, and it's pretty much low-hanging fruit. That really came across to me. But on the negative side, one of the things I did find a bit with some of Neil's bite-sized stuff, especially I think the penultimate one, it was very statistical. It was very, very statty, and it was like, oh, this is getting a little dull, And even my attention spans have started to slip a little bit. So that would be my only criticism, but it was a real insight. So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's you, Kelly.
I was going to say, I've, like you say, you followed him for years. I'm the same. I kind of have, you just keep bits, and I think I was hoping there was going to be some real inspirational nuggets. I think the couple of things I took away were, actually, when I put my LinkedIn profile up, whenever it was, a bit like writing a CV, you kind of chucked your information up, didn't really look back at it. And actually, it's probably worth going through from a search point of view, making sure I've got my SEO keywords in there, because, I've kind of not really maybe thought about that. The thing that he said about making sure you're, the 120 characters underneath your name, that gives you your kind of your statement, your line. I thought actually using what Paul's already given us as a, what 6 words kind of thing, you can maybe use that and ensure you've got your keywords in. So there were a couple of things that you think, okay, yeah, actually that might help. As I say, I was sort of, sometimes, Andrew, when you watch him, there'll be some real aha moments. You go, God, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's just finding that, moment. But
I think Kelly's I think that Kelly's idea of a book club idea, the book club concept, to say, look, let's just explore this. Let's all explore it, and then see what we can, share with the group. And I think Barry said something quite interesting here. So who hasn't got 10 minutes to tune into something? And I think if it's done that for everybody, then that's good. One of the benefits of YouTube is that if you're looking at something and something doesn't quite resonate, there's usually somebody on the right that is also talking about the same subjects, and it can be a distraction, but it's quite interesting. And that way we end up finding, and if you end up finding somebody that resonates or communicates a little bit better on your level, then it really doesn't matter. And in taking about 10 minutes, as you know, whenever first thing in the morning when I go and have a shower, I have a speaker that I take into the bathroom, and I'll listen to a podcast. And funny enough, I was listening to a podcast today on LinkedIn, and there, this young lady was added to the whole thing, and I'm going to end up with that. If I may, I'd like to, share some of the notes I've taken. And these were my thoughts, and they actually weren't coming from Neil Patel. They were coming from Natasha Velasquez, who I found out, and I'll show you how I found out. She's a second-term connection to me. She lives in Sheffield, and I've discovered somebody that she's got a direct connection with that I know quite well. So, and I'll tell you the significance of that in a minute. So, can I share that?
Yeah.
By the way, I made a big mistake when I spoke to Rod yesterday. I said, perhaps LinkedIn isn't as relevant for Rod as the rest of us who are B2B. How wrong I was. I've decided I was completely wrong. And LinkedIn is particularly useful to Rod.
I've done.
Go on, Karen.
Sorry, Paul, I was going to agree. I had a quick look through specifically for kind of the funeral directors kind of angle, and there's quite a big network of people on there, all related to the funeral industry, sort of again getting referrals, getting sort of almost networking, so again helping them to get more presence for each of the funeral directors. So there's florists on there specifically, or the horse-drawn carriage people who only do funerals and things like that, and celebrants. There's a whole network going on, and there's a lot of people in the funeral market on LinkedIn networking. So, well,
of course, we've got that vested interest in potentially using LinkedIn for the new project, and so that could be useful. And I'll show you where was there any other things, Kelly, or can I share what I was going to say? Ewan?
There's just one thing as well. That, to Kelly's point, I was going through because I was looking at, setting up the company page. If you just type in funeral or just the first three letters, the number of organizations that come up, and also, interestingly enough, funeral marketing organizations.
Really?
Yeah. Now, they're probably all states-based, but it was amazing to see. It's just a massive list, which surprised me.
It's a big market in the US.
It is. The funeral business is it's a bit like the wedding industry. They're way over the top. But the figures, the numbers are staggering. Right, let me just start with this. And this is the way I would sort of teach what I've learned. Let me ask you all a question. Why before COVID, did we ever go to networking events? Whether it's 4N or referral groups like BNI or whatever, why did we ever go to them?
To build connections, to meet people.
To meet
Eat
people.
sausages.
To eat sausages, to sell stuff, some strategic partnerships. Well, obviously, COVID has done away with all that, and it's taken all those events online. And yet, if you look at LinkedIn, it's always been there as an online network. And if you imagine that your approach at a networking event, keep that in your mind when you go onto LinkedIn, it's like walking into the door of a big, giant worldwide network of business people who are essentially are people and essentially are largely B2B, largely. Okay? So I think that we're just like with BNI and 4N, we've got to consider what is it we want to achieve when we go to a networking event. What is it we're looking to do? For me, I'm looking for I always look for strategic partnerships. I'm also interested in how I can help other people. So there's my mindset. In prior days, and ultimately, I'm looking to see who I might be able to help that might want to pay me for that specific help, who want to take my advice or whatever further. And one of the things I've always realized, but I'm not quite known always how to achieve, is that when you go to a networking event, people look at you, they see how you're dressed, they see how you stand, they see how you speak, whether you're a listener, whether you're a talker, whether you're funny, whether you're serious, whether you're boring, whether you are dull, animated, or whatever. It's not quite as easy online, but it's still very possible. And the way that that's possible, in a networking event, you can make eye contact with somebody that's already smiling, or you're introduced to somebody and the conversation flows easily. On an online activity, other than video, it's not quite so easy. And so I always think, if people are going to look me up on LinkedIn or look you up on LinkedIn, what will they see? Will they be inspired? Is it up to date? So I think anybody that wants to get started or restarted with LinkedIn needs to look at what was suggested by Neil Patel and Natasha. And that's the profile. And Natasha's, what I got from Natasha is the first thing she talked about, well, apart from photograph and a good headshot, and that's where Nick can come in, very much so, is keywords. And what she said is, find 10 keywords, write down, come away from the computer, write down 10 keywords that describe you, what you do, what skills you've got, what industry you're involved in, and I would add on what interests you've got. 10 keywords. Now, you don't just list those on the profile, you've got to weave those into a sensible statement, because that statement will follow you wherever you go. Wherever people see your photograph, they'll see that. So I'd already looked at changing that, and sometimes you look at it and then you change it again and you change it again. And she said, don't be frightened to cheat and look at other people's that inspire you. So it's not a selling statement, but it's a statement of what people can expect. And so those keywords go into a headline: who you are, what you do, and who you help and how. So that, I'll repeat that: who you are, what you do, who you help, and how. The next thing down as part of your profile was the about section. And again, she says that you can include your keywords in that, but it's about what is it about you. Now, some people have very long ones. I've had a long explanation of about me and my background, but I've recently shortened it, and you can make that choice. But what I got from that is it should have a call to action, either to find out more, click on my website, or find out more, give me a call. As the youngsters say, hit me up on LinkedIn or whatever. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's connect. Your experiences, of course, is quite interesting. It's your background, jobs, the positions that you've held, and again, they should include keywords that are related to how you've gathered that experience. So I've got quite an extensive experience in the hair and beauty industry, and I'm thinking maybe I ought to include that, because when it comes to product development in that area, I could certainly help, just as Nick has got his overriding experience in the food industry. So again, that could be certainly included in yours, Nick. And then the skills, what you're good at, and that's where and she suggests just list up to 50, because it helps people recommend you for certain skills. And I know the last time I looked, when it came to small business marketing and networking, I had over 100 sort of testimonials, not testimonials for that. So these people will click what you're good at, but also will produce testimonials, and testimonials apparently go in that section. Now, I haven't fully looked at that profile, and that's one of the things I'm going to be exploring over the next few days. The next thing she then went on to say, depending on what you want to achieve, and you've got to decide what you want to achieve, you need to build a strong network. And that is, some people will they'll connect with anybody and anybody on a very superficial way. It's a little bit like networking tarts. They'll go to every networking event that they possibly can, and they'll know of a lot of people, but not any number of people in any great depth. I prefer to go, I know a lot of people, but when it comes to a bit more in depth, there's certain people I'm closer to. And when it comes to what you're looking for and who you want to connect with, I think we've got to decide, are we looking for buyers where we do all the work? Or are we looking for introducers? They are what I would call marketing partnerships, people that share the same market sector, bit like referral groups, power teams, etc., that could make those introductions, that are likely to know lots of people that are in our target audience. Now, when it came to searching those people out, it's very possible on the LinkedIn free account, which I've always had, to do basic searches. So you can search by geography, by industry sector, you can search by title, i.e., you know, buying IT manager, financial advisor, whatever, or company size maybe. And she did tell me that you can go for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, but I haven't found that. But I haven't looked very carefully yet. She then goes on to other habits like groups, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. In other words, making sure that you're connecting with them on there. But frankly, I've put that to one side for the moment, personally. I want to see what's going on here. But this is what I've added on. If you make a connection, you've got to decide ahead of time, because there needs to be some strategy in this. How are you going to connect? You know, once you've made that connection and have accepted your connection, what are you going to do next? Are you going to have a dialogue? Is it going to be, are you going to be trying to sell something straight away, or you just take it? I would advise that you build a relationship first. But also you've got to think, what are you've got content on your LinkedIn, you know, maybe blogs or things you've shared that you can refer people to, but where's the rest of your collateral? You see, for instance, I have blogs that I've written on my website. I've got blogs that I've shared and written on LinkedIn. I've got video content. I can invite people to you know, to an event like this. So you know, I've got to work out exactly where I'm going to take people. And also, and I've covered it before, I know at the right time, so I get the dialogue moving. I know at the right time, I'll just whip out the phone, and on LinkedIn, I'll just send them a quick video. And I intend to do that because it really does connect people. Now, it might be that you're not that comfortable with that, but it could be that in your conversation, you end up sharing a video you've done. Mark could share last week's or the week before's video, or last week's video. He could share some other content that he's got. So we've got to think about how we're going to communicate. Is it just going to be purely on LinkedIn? Are going to want to get people on a phone call or a Zoom call or whatever? That needs to be thought out in advance, because otherwise the danger is you make a connection, you exchange an email, and then it gets forgotten. And so many people that connect with me do that. And I think, you know, it's a bit of a waste. It's frustrating, that.
Paul, have you got any insight from what you've seen so far as to how often we should be posting or writing articles and actually putting evergreen content onto LinkedIn?
Well, I can come to that when it comes to company page. But funny enough, and I'll send you a link if you want, this audio that I listened to today, actually she answered that. She was saying she posts on her personal page almost every day, but on her company page, she shares content. And I'll come on to that in a minute. And she does that once a week. But originally, she would post more often when she was building her channel up. Because I think, again, and maybe Kelly will know, but I really don't know how the algorithms work. I would imagine, like most of the social media content online, something I post today will have disappeared by this afternoon. You know, so I don't think it's going to do any. I post fairly often on LinkedIn nowadays. I usually repeat whatever I've done on Facebook or vice versa. So I can't give you a definitive answer to that. I suppose it depends what you've got time to do as well.
I think also the quality of your as you're saying, Paul, it's the quality of the content. So if you're posting one really good thing every week, so every Tuesday you post a really interesting article or comment or thought, then you're more likely to get engagement. People will know, okay, he posts every Tuesday, it's his Tuesday thought or something. Whereas, you know, if you're just posting up stuff every day, it's a bit like Facebook, isn't it? If you see someone who posts every time they eat something, you just scroll past them and you actually stop watching them. But if
Yeah.
you know someone occasionally posts something interesting, you'll you know, if you're following a group or something, go, well, I need to know that. So I suppose I think that's why there's no hard and fast rules, because it always depends on who you are, what you're selling, who your group is. So you can search and search, and no one really knows the actual. They'll give you an example of where they've been successful, but that it really works for their community and their, you know, the time that they post. Again, it's all depends on who you're trying to reach. So
it is, and I think the lady that I was listening to this morning, she's an American lady. She started out on LinkedIn looking for a job. She then, you know, she wrote this article that got lots of viral content, and she's got an agency now. So she made a relevant point. She said, you've got to remember that entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people that are a business of one, the one thing they don't have is time. So it's very easy for me or you and Ewan and Kelly to talk about content, and I've got the time to do that because not only is it my business, but I'm technically retired, so I've got the time, and I've got to keep remembering that everybody else hasn't got the time, and that's the biggest challenge. That's the biggest challenge people have got. It's not only the time; it's how to use that time, and content can pay off in a cumulative basis, in building your brand, your awareness, etc. But it does take time. As an entrepreneur, our time is, you know, we're chasing business all the time. Yes, Nick.
Yeah, one thing I've tried to do, I guess, from that time point of view, is I've tried to reuse content. So where I've written a blog, I've then repurposed it for LinkedIn, and then I've pinned it on my homepage into featured articles, so that it almost becomes evergreen because it's sat there at the top of my page. So if anyone's interested, they can dip into an article, and I can unpin those if I don't think they're relevant anymore. So it's quite a time-effective way, I think, of keeping that content visible.
I think the whole subject of repurposing content is quite easy. So I think the only thing people can do if they've got the wherewithal is to produce a piece of content and think how many different ways you can use that content. Mark, and then Ewan.
One of the things I've started doing a little while back now was where I'm writing articles is to write them as a blog post on the website and then share a link on LinkedIn for that blog post on the website, because then if people get a teaser on LinkedIn and if they want to know more, they click through to the website and it just drives traffic through.
Yeah. Ewan.
Yeah, that's best practice. You know, a few things. Yes, you know, content, slice it and dice it as much as you can, and the best way to do that is, you know, if you think about a long piece of content, is to pick out the most compelling parts of that content that will make people want to read more. But as you say, take it out of the realm of LinkedIn and take it to your realm, because then it's your, you know, you can understand what's going on rather than having to go through and look at what LinkedIn's saying is going on. Because what you then want to understand is not only, ideally what you want is you don't want just people to come to the blog and then bounce off. What you want to them is to go to the blog and think, wow, that's interesting, and then visit other pages. What you want to understand is what is the relationship between people coming to your site to that particular point and visiting the key points of the site that you want them to watch. You'll know which are the key parts of your site. They may be your get in touch page, they may be your pricing page, whatever that is, and you want to understand what that relationship is.
Good. Yeah. When coming back to content as well, one of the things, and I think it was Natasha that says this in a second video, is on the right of LinkedIn, there are trending topics. And what she does is she'll take a trending topic that can resonate with her target audience, and she will take hold of that and then give her own slant on it, her own comment on it, and link back to that. So I think that could be quite interesting. I think what I tend to blog about and content is all over the place. It's roughly in the same area, but it's whatever I think about in the shower, you know, that moment. She talks about the other thing is about groups, and that's something I haven't explored yet. But as Ewan has pointed out, there are thousands of groups, and they are like they're like a huddle of people in a corner of the networking room that are geeking out about a particular subject, and you can ask to join that because you're interested in the topic, you want to learn more, or you have something to contribute. But just as you would not go into a group and start talking at people or selling to people, you really have got to see what's going on, absorb what's going on, see who are the big influencers, see who has most to say, and then at the right stage, authentically make a comment to agree with or to put a different slant on, and start that way to build that relationship. It's just the way you would do it in a networking event. You'd join a group, you'd say nothing to begin with, you'd listen to what was going on, and if you felt you had something appropriate to contribute, you would then contribute it. I think it was Ewan first. Did you say something then, Rod? Or I think it was Ewan first.
Yeah, groups. Yeah, I've done a lot of work with groups in the past, and you're exactly right. Think of it as a huddle in the room. The thing about groups is they're quite hard work to be able to get, because you usually have an organizer who set it up and then people that they know, and then you join it, and people are quite protective of that group. And the thing is to share valuable content within the group before you get to any of that salesmanship. The other thing is don't join too many, because you can then get bombarded with stuff. I joined LinkedIn in 2006, so I was one of the first few people in it, and there was nothing there. So I joined loads of groups, and then within probably by about 2011, 2012, my inbox was just constantly full. It's not so much now, because I then got rid of them. So be very careful about the groups that you join, and perhaps when you start, join one or maybe two and see how the dynamic works within the group before, because the temptation is to go, I joined online marketing groups, digital groups, whatever, and they all do different things. So practice with one and one that you're particularly interested in.
And on a group, you have to be accepted. So there's usually a list of rules, and I think it's wise to abide by those rules. Now, Natasha, on her 30-minute a day, basically broke down. I don't know if that needs to be every day, but there's no reason why it can't be. She said she does 10 minutes of research. And that's looking for who she wants to build into a pipeline and connect with. 10 minutes of research, 10 minutes of connection requests. That's either direct connection requests or having the person that already knows that person to introduce them. I think you're limited to the number of direct connection requests you can make. But then also 10 minutes of follow-up, staying in touch with people. And I think that is really key. Now, what I want to two things I want to finally do then from a time point of view is I have a personal page, a bit like you, and I've had a page since it almost began and not known what I was doing with it. But there's also company pages. And the young lady this morning in the shower suggested that your personal page is you walking into a networking event. And when somebody asks you for a business card, you hand them the company page. So I think that was a very descriptive way, being a visual person. And this one will interest Rod. Imagine you've gone into a networking event on a personal page and you're talking with all these people. And then somebody with a LinkedIn badge comes along and they say, hey, I've got something for you and it's absolutely free. How would you like a stand at a big business event, a big business exhibition? Or as they say in the States, a booth. Normally costs a lot of money. Rod knows that because he used to run them. How would you like a free stand? That's your company page. So I thought, that's quite interesting. That is very interesting. It's taken a different way to look at that. Now, one of the highlights of my week has been the fact that Natasha, I noticed in her description, she offered a link to have Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is an advanced search facility run by LinkedIn. I think it's a separate, they use it as a separate company. Normally £69 a month. And as she said, If it's worthwhile, it's worthwhile. If it's not, it's not. Now, normally you can get a 30-day trial. There's a special link there that offers a 60-day trial, which I've clicked on. And whenever I click on any trial, I always make a note in my diary a week before, and it pops up and a reminder to say, do I really want to continue with this? And at the moment, I'm thinking I'll just take the 60 days. But already I've seen, and if anybody wants to take LinkedIn to a next stage, I'd recommend it to you. I'm going to share something that my mouth dropped open. I'm just going to share my screen for a moment. There's my notes there, you see. Where am I? Have a great meeting. Right. Get these out of the way. This is my sales. So I'm now, when you get Sales Navigator, you also get Premium. And just for those that are interested, anybody that you can, it actually throws up whoever's clicked on, whoever's checked you out on LinkedIn. You know, if somebody's clicked on your message, your page, it'll tell you. And Becky Coote contacted me yesterday, and I accepted the request. And what it obviously does is whoever I've got I've got that connection with, I think what it does is anything she posts, it throws up on this page. So I can actually, and so that's the only one since I've logged on. I think what happens there is that anything anybody does that I'm connected with, it throws up. So I've got the ability to respond to that or comment on it. But what was really interesting is two things. First of all, I've started to create lists. So here I've got people that know about LinkedIn, and this is Natasha. Funny enough, I noticed it said second. Now, when you see 1, it means you're directly connected with that person. All right. When you see a 2, somebody that you're directly connected to is connected to that person. So I thought, oh, I wonder who's connected to Natasha. So I click that. Tells me all about it. Oh, I thought it'd show me that. So I'm actually going to, I'm definitely going to, I've saved her. Rebecca Cross from Smart PA, I used to help her with her marketing when she first started for about a year. I know Rebecca very well. I've introduced Joe to her. So not surprisingly, she's following Natasha. So the point is, if I wanted, I can directly connect with Natasha, and I will do, and I'll thank her for her contribution and maybe persuade her, if we're doing something on here, to get her on one of these calls. But she would be a very useful person to connect with, because from a video, she seems very approachable. Maybe introduce her to Rod. But secondly, if I was to approach her, I can actually phrase something and say, look, I see we both have a mutual connection in Rebecca Cross. Rebecca speaks of you highly, etc. I wonder whether we can connect. Now, what is even more fascinating is searches, and you can search for all sorts of things. So, for instance, without going into this because it will take too much time, what I did is I decided on geography. I thought, right, there's my postcode. I'll search for a 10-mile, 10-kilometer search. For people with second degree connections, they're people that know somebody that I know. It came up with 4,000 results, 4,000 people on LinkedIn, plus within a 10-mile radius of my home address. 93 of them have changed jobs in the last 90 days. 760 of them are active. They posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. And 508 of them share experiences. So if I want to see who's changed jobs, I click there. I want to see who's posted on LinkedIn, I can click there. Okay. Now I can go and do this. That person works at Clark's. Pure Electric, Rod and I know Pure Electric, Pure Scooters. They're in West Pennard. So I can actually save Andrew if I click that. And I have no list for that. I'm just going to put and not do a description. So under local, so I could go through this, especially if we refine it further, to invite people to this event, which is another way in which I can get to know them, they can get to know the group, etc. So if you look through that, and if I look at shared connections, Sam Kears, Mark Hay, Knife Fork Bottle, Lisa Moon, I don't really know those people. I've got connections of mine. That's sometimes the challenge. Paul Randall Street, he's an IT man at Clark's. And Mike King, I know very well. Greg Cooper, I've met at an event. I think also Graham Crosby, who's a good BNI member. I know him very well. So can you see how that can be very, very useful? I can put in keywords. I don't know what I'm doing now, so I'm going to come out of that. Right, we're out of the screen now. So any points, any comments on that?
The only thing I guess, Paul, is when you've got a second connection and you think it's through someone and you say, oh, they speak highly of you, I guess you need to check that they haven't done what we've all done and connected someone just randomly, because otherwise you'll...
Absolutely. So no, I mean, in fairness, what I should have made clear is I would have gone to Rebecca and said,
checked.
I'm interested in meeting so-and-so. It's a little bit like a BNI meeting or a 4N meeting or commerce, where you want an introduction into somebody who do you know. And frankly, I've always believed that in LinkedIn, you can actually find out who people already know. You've only got to find out how well they know them. Barry?
Is Pro and Navigator the same thing?
No.
I'm glad somebody answered that, because I didn't know the answer to that.
No, Pro. No, it's not.
What's the
It's
difference?
Pro is for people who, Pro is really for, it was really designed originally for people who are looking for jobs and for recruiters. Sales Navigator, I work with a company in May, their entire sales team, all they do is spend 8 hours a day in Sales Navigator. That's all they do. They do nothing else. They do on the phone and Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator is very much designed for enterprise size organizations, sales teams within enterprises. Pro is probably more for, as I say, job seekers and possibly solo and entrepreneurs who are just looking to be able to contact people. Because I think you're restricted through your standard one. You can't contact anyone other than someone who is a first connection, I think, or possibly, no, you could, a second connection. You can't go any further. It won't allow you to do it.
So it's like standard, the premium Pro one, and then Navigator at the top.
Yeah.
How much are they?
I think Pro is 30 quid a month.
I don't know.
And I think Sales Navigator.
Paul just said 69.
No, I think it could be more than that.
Okay.
I think Sales Navigator is quite expensive.
It's £68.98, I think. And by the way, if I can share that link again, it's an affiliate link. She will earn money if you eventually buy it. There's no problem with that. When you go on it, and I registered my details, and then it immediately comes up and it says that you will be billed in a month's time. So I got onto LinkedIn yesterday and said, look, you know, I've had this link. This is the page it sent me to. And now you're talking about one. But she said, no, it will default to 0 again. And so I've got a connection. So don't worry about that. That, you know, it's 60 days. So I thought 60 days is so for anybody that you might want to just take LinkedIn a little bit further before you do that. But, you know, I can imagine it'd be useful, that link for somebody like Nick and for Kelly and Ewan, most definitely. Where I thought it would be useful for Rod is, and again, I think Rod's more a face-to-face rather than on the computer, but for things like plans and connections, it could be useful for our business in connections in, say, Norwich or Glastonbury or wherever, I think could be a very useful tool. But again, as she says, unless you find any value from it, unless you can measure it and it actually brings in business, then it's not worthwhile. It's certainly worth trying. And by the way, I should have said, I know Rod has got things to pick up this morning, so I know he had to get off early. Ewan.
I would. The one thing that you did say that I would agree that everyone think about is definitely putting. If you haven't got one, put up a company page.
Yeah.
Because also what the company page gives you that you probably don't get from your personal is it gives you a very basic level of stats to understand what people are doing and what people are looking at and how they're interacting with you. And that's quite valuable. I mean, I'm big on stats and data anyway, but it is quite powerful from that. And as you say, use the company page for where you post the content and use that, which is what we do. And then your personal page is personal.
Well, I have to say that's one of the things I glean from that. I'm going to set one up for Marketing Crew, and I know we are for Funeral Marketing Limited. So I'll definitely want for Marketing Crew for certain. And I think the other thing, and I think Nick alluded to it, is that whatever you put there actually stays there. You go on, it's a little bit like a mini website. Is that right, Nick?
That's the featured section, so you can actually feature posts or articles, yeah. And then they're quite high up on your page, so people will see them very quickly when they're scrolling.
Yeah,
so, yeah, for me, it's a way of adding value early on in the journey through your LinkedIn page.
You can add post and pin post on your personal page as well, can't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Kelly.
Sorry, just a quick idea, but you know, one of the first opening Neil Patel was about have a headshot, Nick. I think you should share that. Put your own stuff at the top going, if you want to follow this, I can recommend someone.
You might even be able to find stats about how much more LinkedIn's been used throughout the pandemic, which would help. You know, if LinkedIn's now being used, searched 20% more time, and one of the most important things is to have a headshot, then you need to think about having a proper headshot.
Yeah, there's a good story there, isn't there?
Yeah.
When I was looking at the search, and I've only spent 10 minutes on this, it's the only search I've done, and I thought, wow, I mean, I haven't even looked through those, and obviously you can fine tune that research so that you're not trawling through all 4,500. But I thought with Nick in mind, when we go and take this project that we discussed the other week forward for Somerset, it could help produce some connections with food manufacturers. So you can imagine Nick we want to get together a load of food people together for Nick's idea. Goodness me, it wouldn't be difficult at all.
No, you'd be able to identify them very easily, wouldn't you? By sector, by job role within that business. Yeah.
All right, so we've reached the top of the hour. What I'm going to do is to go around and just see if any parting shots of what you've got from this morning, if anything. And I will say that there's a guy called Mark Stonham that I met some years ago at a BNI meeting, and I've kept in regular contact on LinkedIn. And he's offered to come, and he's a specialist on LinkedIn. He's offered to come on one of our calls in January, you know, to help us take this further and give us some more gems. So that could be quite useful. So that's me. I will go on to Mark.
Right now, it's always useful to know what you're doing is in the right direction. And certainly I set up a business page early on LinkedIn, so certainly using that, and those stats are quite useful. So yeah, onwards and upwards for 21.
Good. Andrew?
Yeah, I've sort of, I've not really had the time to be doing any sort of marketing on social media, bit of LinkedIn or Facebook. What I thought originally that LinkedIn was the place, B2B. But I've since convinced myself that actually all my clients are on Facebook, and maybe it's Facebook that I need to be targeting. But I think through watching Neil's stuff that Kelly's recommended, and through today's discussion, I feel the oil tanker is turning. So I think we'll be going to have a go at LinkedIn.
I'm the first
I do love an analogy.
You've got a wicked sense of humour, I love it.
Wait until you get to TikTok, and I think you've got to be very careful. A bit like Ewan said about group. You've got to go. You can only be on what you can handle, and I've been more probably Facebook and with a cursory look on LinkedIn, and I think now I'm a bit like Nick has said, I need to get more involved. It's more obvious, especially as a content creator, that I can build rapidly on LinkedIn. Barry.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, I think I haven't done much on LinkedIn over the years. In some ways, I've got so many connections on there. I don't want to mess it up. So rather than mess it up, I've done next to nothing. And I think I need to sort of turn that around a little bit for next year. So no, I'd like the idea of having another one on this. It's been very thought provoking and something I should do for next year.
Good. Well, maybe it's something we should return to every so often on these calls and see how we're progressing. Kelly, Ewan.
From my point of view, I'm probably a bit. It's quite interesting. I've used LinkedIn professionally since I don't know when, as in for clients and things. But very much like Barry, my own connections, I've been very protected. I've probably used it the wrong way. I have 200 and whatever. I know every single person I'm connected to personally, and I've kind of never connected with people because I'm like, I don't know you. I use it because people I know, and I think I've probably got it slightly wrong, and I need to rethink how I use it just from listening to this conversation. But another thing also comes to mind, Paul. Another thing that we might just gloss over in a call might be Lead Gorilla, because that might be useful in combination with LinkedIn. Yeah. Identifying organizations for people who are in a business to business environment is just giving a quick cursory look at that as well.
Well, for everybody that's interested, I have some software called Lead Gorilla that I use when I do my B&I or any lead generation. I use that as a source. And then pull it into one CRM where I've also got the LinkedIn connection. So when I was looking at this, I was thinking about Lead Gorilla in a two-tiered.
Yeah, exactly.
I can put my prices up. But I was very much like you. For years, I would only connect with people. I'm a bit like that on Facebook. I only connect with people I've met. And I remember saying something at a meeting, and they say, "Well, hang on, why would I connect with somebody I don't know?" And they said, "Well, you won't know them until you connect with them." And I thought that was very, very good. So, Nick, finally to you.
Well, it's got so much opportunity, I think, LinkedIn. I think if you look at Facebook, they're not really engaged to the same extent when on Facebook. And I think if you're in a B2B market, the engagement and the quality of engagement on LinkedIn is at a different level. For me, I think I'm a bit like the rest of the guys here. I've been kind of dabbling in it. I've got some kind of structure, but I just need to be a lot more strategic, I think, and kind of almost build it up from the bottom. There's so much to learn. I think I'm probably using about 5% of the potential in LinkedIn. So yeah, I'm not quite sure where to start yet, but I think we should definitely be doing more sessions on LinkedIn going forward, because I think it's a great opportunity for all of us.
Absolutely.
One last point as well. I think the problem potentially with LinkedIn going the way that Facebook is going is people do really bad things on it. So and I think the one thing I've done recently is I've realized you can deselect people as well. So what I've done is I've gone into people who've done that and I've just cut them out of my network, because I've thought only by doing that will people learn to do it properly.
What do you mean when people are kind of posting garbage that just gets in the way of your news feed that you don't want to see?
Or they connect with you because you've got a classic example. I had someone who connected because I've got a secondary connection with them. So I connected with him. I just then got sales message after sales message after sales message. I didn't say anything to him. I just deselected him.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, is there?
Someone of yours.
Oh yeah, and another one posted was posting on was trying to get contacts of mine, and it's like, no, go away.
It was a quite sensitive subject. Someone had posted a sensitive, it's one of Ewan's connections, something personal to them, and this random person that Ewan had connected with jumped in on that link because Ewan had commented and tried to sell her something, and actually it wasn't appropriate. She wasn't in the right place for that, and that's when you do select it in.
I just got rid of him because I just thought people are, you know,
That's
it's
wrong.
done. If it's done that badly, it will go the same way as Facebook.
Well, this lady on the podcast was saying that, and it's the millennials. They're now jumping on LinkedIn and they use it. They're introducing more social stuff to it, which to a point is okay. Realize that if you've got sun in the morning, suddenly it rises, and I can't see a damn thing now. So maybe this isn't the best place at certain times. Anyway. Yeah, I think I've taken that on board, Nick. I will again send out that link to Natasha's videos. They're well worth watching. I think she's got a very nice, easy way of explaining things at bite-sized bits. Again, I'll separately send that link. It's her link, so you know, choose your time when you want 60 days. If you want 60 days, if you want to explore it. But remember, if you're not going to use it in the end, make sure you put a note in your diary to cancel it online. Anyway, this is the last meeting of the year. I think we're just getting too close to Christmas to do any more. I'll post out a date for the next one, and I look forward to that. And if I don't see any of you online or face-to-face, may I wish you a very happy Christmas, and don't get too close to too many people, but whatever you do, enjoy your festive time. All the best.
And you, Paul.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas, everybody.
Everyone.
Cheers.
Wow.
I can't see anything.
Well lit, Paul. Well lit.
Cheers, guys. We can see you, Paul.
Yeah.
Ciao.